got it.
Sorry about that, man.
Yep, I believe I got it. No
Thanks.
problem. So we are, so very quickly, just to recap for the recording, everyone, the 3 keys we're focusing on today are self-regulating your motivation, understanding others, and really that builds all 3 of these together, and communicating and building rapport. So we begin with self-regulating your motivation. Now with motivation, there is this interesting construct, is that immediately whenever we hear motivation, we turn to the inward. We turn to our own internal motivation. And yes, that is going to be a major key for this, meaning we have to understand what really motivates us. And we've talked about this in, the past and other sessions and other types of things that, what are your motivators? Money is a motivator in certain ways, right? However, it typically finds itself as a short-term motivator, meaning, you're going for a new job, a new promotion, a raise, whatever it might be. And we get that and we're excited, but that new money only creates motivation for a short time. Eventually, not too long after, we start saying, man, I wish I had more money, wish I had more of this. And so there's a deeper level to it. So there's short-term and long-term motivators. While we look inward at our motivators, the key of emotional intelligence is being able to turn that to the outward. Meaning, can you understand, interpret, acknowledge, and utilize other people's motivators? Now, are you thinking about them? As we, dive deeper into the growth of emotional intelligence within ourselves, there is a major aspect of being able to effectively move the needle inward and move the needle outward. So yes, we are going to talk about discovering and understanding our own motivators, being aware of them, being honest with ourselves, but we also want to make sure that we are being open and understanding, and it kind of ties in with empathy, but understanding other people's motivators. It could happen in the workplace. It could happen in our personal lives. Do we really know what motivates someone else to be their best self? So one thing to do to help increase and grow your motivation and your self-regulation of such is to learn to defer short-term results for long-term success. So what we mean by this is it is very easy in life, in work, personal life, anything, right, to go for the short-term win because it feels good. It's nice to have a win. It is nice to be able to see the fruits of our labors. However, for long-term success, what we find is you have to look in the long-term motivator, long-term goal realm. And so we need to be able to understand and process. So what I would say is it is important for every person to take time to self-analyze their internal motivators. What is it that really gets you going? What is it that makes you want to come into work every day? And of course, everyone wants to say some of the basics, right? Well, I do the job for the money. Okay, perfect. I understand. If they stop paying me, I probably don't show up too. Okay? So yes, money is there. But you could make money doing many different things. Why do you do what you do? Why do you love what you do? Why are you excited to get up in the morning, right? What motivates you to be successful in your job? These motivators are important. And if you're a leader of people, what motivates them to come in every day? And you as their leader, are you actually helping to increase that, to grow? Or are you neglecting or breaking it down? Understanding this concept and being thoughtful of what are the short-term motivators versus long-term motivators can make a huge difference in not only your organizational and team culture, but also in your effectiveness and happiness at doing your job, your tasks, and parts of your life. Next, we talk about understanding your why not versus your why. And this is one of my favorite topics, by the way. I love talking about this, and Kent knows it. I put it into every session that I can because I find it to be so it's powerful for me because I've never heard anyone really talk about this. Everybody seems to talk about you have to know your why. Understand your why. If you want to know your motivators, know your why. And I agree, you do have to know them. And you have to understand your why. However, you need to ensure that your why is big enough to overcome any why nots that could get in the way. Meaning we talk to, a lot of people we coach and we, mentor, and we find that they, I want to, move up in my career. Okay, perfect. absolutely, that's great. It's wonderful to coach an employee and to help guide them and mentor them. But the concept of moving up in your career and getting promoted isn't that hard. Meaning, if you get the promotion, yay, you're excited, it's great. Getting that promotion might take things that are a little harder. It might take separating yourself away from a peer group. It might mean that you have to take a more stricter, we'll call it the corporate, ideology, which means it may separate you out from the individual contributors or the peer group that you're in. And that could be a why not. Meaning someone wants to grow their career, but then they, have that little tinge of doubt, I call it the inner gremlin that comes in and says, oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, they're going to make fun of you. Oh, it's not going to happen. You can't do that. You're not smart enough. We have to make sure that we understand the little inner gremlins, the negative self-talk, the peer pressure, the issues that come up in that social construct, to be able to say then that my why is so big that it can overcome all of that. Meaning a why isn't just, I want a promotion to make more money. Most people won't put in what it takes just for that why. Now, if it's, I want to do this because I see myself having an amazing career and I can grow and I can be, amazing in this, and I know that I'm destined for greatness and this will benefit my family. If they have this, long construct of short and long-term motivators that are their why, that will help people overcome any negative self-talk that gets in the way. So if you want to really move the level up of your motivation internally or that for others, understand the things that could get in the way of their motivation and then understand their why. Then what you can do is you can leverage the why consistently to overcome the negativity and actually move forward over all the negativity and all the negative self-talk and the why not. I think this is a powerful concept to be able to utilize to make sure that you are consistently moving your motivators forward. And finally, in this one, what we will discuss is plan for productivity instead of busyness. Nothing saps motivation like busyness. Productivity, on the other hand, typically builds motivation because the essence of productivity is that you are doing something that matters. You're doing something that counts. So if you want to keep your motivation up, look at your role, whether it be work, personal, etc., and ensure that the things you are doing are actually productive and not just busy work. We see this with a lot of, especially with entrepreneurs, I would say. We see it from the life coaching perspective, and from corporate as well, that so many people are just so doggone busy. And it's hard to stay motivated when you're just busy all day long. And then at the end of the day, you sit down and you say to yourself, oh my goodness, oh, I was so busy today. Oh, what did I even do today? Have you ever had that where you thought to yourself at the end of the day, what did I even do today that mattered? That is a telltale sign that you were busy and not productive. And you start stringing multiple days like that together. And what we find is that you start losing your motivation because we are not motivated to be busy. We are motivated to be efficient, effective, and productive. So from the motivation standpoint, a couple of key points to take away. Number one, monitor and understand your own motivators. Understand, in order to build your EQ, understand the motivation of others and what will motivate others to get to where they want to go. This will increase your leadership effectiveness. This will increase your ability to influence others, whether it be as an individual contributor, a leader, etc. And then also make sure that you are planning heavily to be productive, taking the time to reevaluate throughout your day, and then to move forward with productivity. And I'll give you a tip for productivity. This is something that Kent and I developed a few months ago that I think is excellent. Of course, there's the typical weekly planning and daily planning, but we also have an intra-day plan that we utilize. And this is just a quick, short, mental cue to reevaluate and recalculate where your day is going to go. And it's called pause, prioritize, and pursue. So it's 3 P's there: pause, prioritize, and pursue. And I'll even type it in here to the chat so you guys have it. Okay, pause, prioritize, and pursue is this. It's to stop, take a few deep breaths, Whenever you do that, it starts to flood your brain with oxygen. You can start to think more clearly. Whenever you get overwhelmed throughout the day, you get busy, pause, take some time and think. The next step is prioritize. This means write down everything that needs to be done. Write down the important stuff. What really needs to be handled right now and for the rest of the day. And then number them. What's number one? What's the first thing you need to work on? And then that next step is pursue, which means act on the number one most important thing. This is a great way to pivot throughout your day. Whenever you're starting to lose productivity, get stuck into the busy syndrome, right? You can stop, pause, prioritize, and pursue, and that will pivot yourself from busy to productive, from reactive to proactive very quickly, and give you what you really need to ensure that the day doesn't go down the well, as we say. Because sometimes you just get so wrapped up and so busy that it just goes downhill and it feels like you can't stop it. This three-step message or this three-step methodology can help you stop falling down the well of busyness. So with that, we're going to move into now. Oh, there we go. There we go. Creating accountability. Now, with creating accountability, there are, again, inward and outward. We want to start with creating accountability for you. First thing we talk about is setting high standards and setting the example for others. One of the critical drivers I see in the struggle for accountability is this little thought or little rhyme, right? That it's for you and not for me. Accountability, it's for you, but not for me. It doesn't work. Accountability, if it's going to be effective, has to be for everyone. So you, as whether you're an individual contributor, a leader in your personal life, whatever it is, you must set the standards high for yourself, and then that sets the example for others. In the workplace, the way that I think of it is, why would anyone hold themselves to a higher standard than their boss? Right? Why would they do that? They have to really, really care. And I've seen it happen, but you know what? It happens for a short time, because then if that is not rewarded, that person says, well, why am I busting my rear end whenever, I could just do less and, make the same amount of money, get the same amount of recognition? What does it matter? And you'll see that a lack of accountability will then start to erode motivation. So these tie in so heavily. So we have to ensure that if we are going to increase the motivation, that we also enable an effective culture of accountability. For others, as you're holding others accountable, a couple of key tips: be reasonable, be fair, and you have to define fair. And what I mean by that is there are multiple potential definitions for fair. Fair could be that you hold everyone to the exact same standard, no matter what. It could be that you hold everyone accountable to their skills and where they are. But you have to decide what that is, and you have to maintain that over time to ensure that you are consistently holding people accountable equitably and fairly. The best way to do that, I find, is to consistently manage expectations. It is much easier to hold people accountable for their against a set of expectations than it is to hold them accountable for their actions. Meaning, as soon as you start saying, well, you did this, 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 and this, or you didn't do this, 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 and this, or you didn't do it the way I would, then you're managing their motives. You're managing the way they did something. However, if you set clear expectations, then you can effectively manage to those expectations. Those are clear. Those are, we'll call them, for lack of a better term, they're black and white, right? So this is the expectation for success. Here it is. This is the standard I will hold you to. And then it's a simple, yes, it was, or no, it was not completed. So that takes some of the pressure off. It makes it a little easier to hold accountable, because you're not holding the person accountable necessarily for who they are. You are holding accountability against a set of measurable expectations. The other step in accountability is to ensure that you're always working to treat people equally. It can create, and I've seen it, it can create a horrible work environment whenever people on a team feel as if though that one member is treated differently, that they are treated more positively. And so as a leader, be aware of how you are treating all of those on your team, because as soon as someone sees that one person gets by with something, they will hold themselves accountable for what you as a leader hold your weakest link accountable for. People move their level of performance and their internal expectation according to how the leader of that team holds the weakest link of that team accountable. So be thoughtful, be purposeful in your accountability. The third piece that we talk about as we start really diving into this, I call it the trifecta of emotional intelligence, this motivation, empathy, and social skill piece, is deeply understanding others. And we're going to take some time here because this can be hard, and it's hard on multiple levels. You know, first of all, we start with listen without inserting your own story. And man, is this complex. It sounds so easy to just listen and take yourself out of it, but it's hard. This is a major construct of empathy, to say that I can put myself in your shoes, but I'm not passing judgment. I'm not creating a narrative in my own mind about what you're telling me. So as we think about work or home, at work, it might be an employee is having trouble with performance. And we need to listen what's going on. Where do they really need help? How can we help them to move forward without saying in our mind, well, they're just lazy. In our personal lives, it might be that we have someone in our life that just needs to be heard. They're going through a tough time emotionally. We might know exactly how to fix it. Empathy is not about fixing it. Empathy is about being there and letting the other person know that they are understood and they are heard. And think for a moment. Has there ever been a time in your life where you were in a situation and you did not need someone to necessarily fix the problem? You just wanted or needed to be heard. It's a tough time in a person's life whenever they encounter this, because many times we find that this skill of listening without fixing is a hard skill to find. And it's not out of malice, it's not out of anger. People try to fix things because, frankly, that's what we're brought up to do. It's vanilla ice theory. If you got a problem, yo, I'll solve it, right? But not always is the problem intended to be solved by you. It needs to be processed by the other person. You know, as we do classes on a leader as a coach, and one of the first things that we talk about in the coaching world is that you have to guide the other person, facilitate a way for that person to find the answers themselves. Most people, whenever they have a problem, they know what they need to do. They're coming to someone for validation or recognition. They want someone to help them in some way, but ultimately they need to come up with the idea. They need to become bought in with the way to fix it. If you don't let them buy into it, if you say, here's what you do, just do this and leave, that doesn't give them, as an adult, it does not give them what they need emotionally to process, understand, buy in, and move forward. So I'm going to ask a question to the chat group because we haven't had a good chat yet. And my first question would be this. What is something that you can do to ensure that you are listening effectively, whether it be work or personal? What's something that you can do to ensure that you are listening effectively to others? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's chat those out real quick. All right, here we go. We're getting some really good stuff here. So repeat back what you understand. That's right. Put down your phone. Oh, that's so big. Eye contact. Yes. Face them. Stop doing anything else. You know, how many times in our lives right now do we have it where it feels like that we're always even if we're one-on-one with someone, that there's someone else in the room because there's a laptop, there's a phone, there's something that's there in the way. This is an amazing way of us understanding this. To truly listen means that we need to put everything else away and be present in the moment. Not just there, but mentally and emotionally present. Oh, I like that. Don't multitask. That's good, Abby. Good one. I like that. Alicia, that's great. Listen, understand, not just respond. Very good. Be intentional. Make conversations priority. Yes, very good. Absolutely. Restate what you heard. Very good. See, these are great things, and it starts heavily with listening. The next piece. Now, of course, this is emotional intelligence. So, yeah, of course, we're going to go into being aware of emotions, right? But let's go a little deeper than just being aware. What I really mean, maybe the better word would be conscientious of their emotions. Meaning, stop, look at the person, look at their body language, look at their face, try to understand where are they coming from? What is it that is really going on? Is there another level under the surface? Or are they really just where they are? What I find many times is that when emotions are high, there's a deeper level to the story. There's more to understand. And in order to get to those deeper levels, you have to listen. Sometimes you have to peel back the layers. And it takes time. And no, it may not be fast. It may not be as easy as just, well, just tell me what's wrong and let's go. Because sometimes it's just not that easy. And I wish I had some magic bullet for you that said, hey, just say this one phrase and all the world and universe's mysteries will be revealed. No, we're complex, beings. It doesn't work that way. Every adult that you come in contact with has had all of their life's experience up until now that has shaped them in some ways negatively, in some ways positively. So no, just by talking to someone or knowing them for a short time, you cannot know the deepest reaches of their emotions because you don't know where they've been. And so it takes time. So listen, be conscientious, open yourself to seeing their emotions. If someone's angry, why do you think they're angry right now? If they are sad, why do you think they might be sad? Maybe you need to ask, be aware. I can tell that you're really upset right now. Is there something you'd like to talk about? I can see that you're really angry right now. Are you angry at this situation or is there something else going on? Being aware and taking the time to understand the emotion. And it may mean reading it yourself. Again, we're talking about building emotional intelligence. Can you read others' emotions effectively? And this goes in with empathy and social skills as well. But can you read them? And then sometimes you may not be able to. You may have to ask. So be conscious. And finally, strengthen relationships through understanding. Now, whenever I'm talking about this, think of it this way. In times of stress, in times of conflict, these are amazing times where you can strengthen a relationship. They are also times where that you can break a relationship because you can feed off of their emotion. If you are not managing your own emotions, you can get caught up in this cycle of they're upset, now I'm upset, and more upset, and that makes them more upset, and it goes on and on and on until finally there's a breaking point. And so focus on strengthening the relationship by taking your emotion out and saying, you're upset right now, but I don't feel like it's really at me. I think you're actually upset at something else, and I'm here to listen. I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to allow my emotions into this, but I'm more than happy to listen to you if you need to talk. That gives you the opportunity to, in a non-threatening way, discuss the emotion. It doesn't have to be about you. One of the reasons why I see many people struggle whenever it comes to strengthening a relationship instead of breaking it down in tough emotional situations is because they allowed their own emotions to engage. Please know, when someone else is upset, it's not about you. At least it doesn't have to be about you. But many times we make it about us. And when we take someone else's emotional frustration, sadness, anger, hurt, and we interpret that, we put our own story on it, and we involve ourselves in it, that's when our emotions engage, and it does not benefit the situation. You know, I talk and I teach a lot of facilitators how to facilitate content, get on stage, things like that. And one of the things I say from a facilitator's perspective is that you want to engage the audience in your emotions. So there's little cues you can do. You can ask a question and raise your own hand without asking the question, right? Or without saying, hey, raise your hand if. Like you can say something like, you know, have you ever been really upset at your spouse? And then you just raise your own hand and put it up. And that invites the other people to engage emotionally, right? You want them in your story. You want them to feel like, yeah, I have, man, that's right, without telling them to do it. This is the opposite, is we want you to make sure that you are not emotionally engaging in their story, because empathetically, it's about them and not you. The only thing that you have to offer in this is, are you there for them? Are you listening? And are you trying to acknowledge and understand? It may not even be your job to fix, but it probably is your job to listen and to try to understand. Next, from here, we go into persuasion and influence. And we're really starting to talk more in this level about the social skills piece. So from a social skills perspective, where's this? Here we go. We pull up these: motivate, collaborate, calculate, and investigate. Now, what I mean here is these are levels of persuasion, okay? Different potential ways of persuading and influencing others. Sometimes you might go into a motivate realm, meaning you are trying to, in a social environment, whether it be work or personal, to motivate someone to get something done. It takes a certain level of persuasion and influence in order to do that. And it comes up heavily in EQ because do you have what it takes to analyze what the other person's motivators are to persuade and influence them to achieve the task, complete the task, achieve the goal, whatever it might be. And that's one level of social skill. Another level of social skill, which I think is very important, is collaborate. And there are times where, yes, you need to collaborate. Now, how do you persuade, and think of this in a work environment, how do you persuade another agency to collaborate? Another department within your own agency to collaborate, right? There might be some form of territorialism there, or maybe they're so busy, they're already so busy, they don't have time to collaborate, but you need them, right? To up your skill from an emotional intelligence perspective, how can you then understand what they need in order to say yes to the collaboration, right? How to say yes to being influenced to say yes even. And these things are truly, from a social skills EQ perspective, it's about stopping, understanding the other person. If they're an analytical person, then they need data. If they are a passionate person, they need to be sold on the heart part of it, right? How is this going to change the world? Okay. Understanding them and then crafting your communication to their needs is how this works. Now, again, to tie it back to something that I do quite often is talking with people about presentations. The worst presentations I see are the ones that are designed for the presenter. Think about that. The worst presentations are the ones that are designed for the presenter, meaning the presenter sits down and says, these are all the things I want to say. That's the wrong mindset. The right mindset is, here are all the things my audience needs to hear in order to understand, know, or move according to what I'm trying to get them to do. The same thing goes in collaboration, motivation at work. Don't try to motivate them or get them to collaborate, influence, and persuade them the way you need to be persuaded. You have to focus on how they need to be persuaded. And I would love right now in the chat to hear a little bit, what are some ways that you've seen that are different from your own of ways that you can be, or that they need to be persuaded or influenced? How do you, or how have you seen that you need to persuade and influence others in ways that might be different than your own? I'd love to see it in the group chat, and I'll call a few out. Pull instead of push. Absolutely. Make it about people and not the tasks. Very good. Make them feel they had input. Yes, very good. Absolutely. Hey, there we go. Make a deal so you both get something out of it. Yep. I've always worked best under strict rules and regulations. Some people need freedom and less regulation and management. Yes, Bailey, that's a wonderful insight, because not everyone responds to the same persuasion and influence that we as individuals do. Cost-benefit analysis for decisions isn't always about money or time. It's sometimes about energy. Wonderful, Michael. That's great. And so understanding this about others allows us. Now, I tell people, and I say this with a slight hint of funniness, right? As you learn more about emotional intelligence, I urge each of you, use it for good and not evil. Okay? Don't use it for evil. Because what I'm really talking about at this point is utilizing your understanding not only of your own emotions to become better yourself, but to understand other people's emotions. As you understand others, you give yourself a different level of ability to persuade, a different level of ability to influence, to have people say yes, approve projects, move forward, get stuff done. It is a powerful thing. And the highly emotionally intelligent person is very adept at this. They are able to do this. We look at it many times as charisma. Charisma is a highly emotionally intelligent person in at least a few of the fields. Maybe not all, but some. Because they are able to highly and sometimes passionately influence and persuade others. Now, we go into calculate and investigate. Calculate and investigate, we'll start with calculate, is this. It's really about understanding the other person. Are they the type of person that needs the data, the facts? I bring this up because it ties in very heavily with me. I have become a more data-driven person over time. I think it comes with age and understanding that in my line of work, data leads to success, okay? Earlier in my career, I was all passion. It was all heart. I did it out of the love of the game. And so I had a boss when I was at CSX, the railroad, who was a very data-driven person, and I was very passion-driven. And I had a lot of responsibility there for a lot of people, and I had this great idea. And I go to my boss, and I passionately tell him this idea, and I say, oh, it's going to be so amazing. We're going to change the world. It's going to be excellent. People are going to be the best. And I was so excited. And all I was waiting for was his one thing. I was ready for him to say, oh, my gosh, Brian, you're a genius. This is going to be great. Wow. Instead, what I got was the most soul-crushing response I can imagine. I got, well, how much is it going to cost for the certification? How many days is it going to take? How long will it take to implement? What's the implementation plan? All these tiny little details. I'm like, look, why does any of that matter? I'm talking about changing the world, and you're talking about certification time? What are you talking about, man? Here's the thing. It's because I approached the situation from a not very highly emotionally intelligent view. I approached it from only what I needed. I was sold on the passion. He needed the data, the facts, the figures to back it up. And so I had to go back. I had to retool. And I realized something important that day is that what matters to me doesn't necessarily matter to others. And if that person is a calculator, they need the data, they need that stuff. Then take the time to understand where they're coming from. And if you want that project to be approved, you want to get to yes, you have to give them what they need to say yes. And in some cases, it's something very different from what you might be used to doing. The investigate's very similar. The investigate we find in the persuasion model is that some people want to keep diving deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. They have to have more and more and more. Now, there's a balance here. As that at some point, we have to be able to say, this is how far it is. This is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to be done. And if you need more data, I'll work with you. If you need more information, I'll do that. But you have to let them know that there's not some deeper hidden agenda. Sometimes, whenever you do something, people think, oh, there's a hidden agenda. There's something going on. Now, the highly emotionally intelligent person would say this. Why are they investigating? Is it because I did something, or is it because their past has led them to believe that people have ulterior motives? In order to persuade and influence this person, you have to build trust. They may not have the trust that they need with you in order to buy in. That's not a knock on you as a person. That's not saying that you are untrustworthy. It's saying that their experience has led them to where they are. And where they are is at a place where they need time or actions to build trust. And so the highly intelligent, emotionally intelligent person will look at someone and understand, what does it take to motivate them? What does it take to get them to collaborate? Are they a calculated person? Are they the person that needs trust built in order to proceed? And guess what? Here's the thing, especially with investigate, it may take more time. I know in this society, we are an instant gratification society. Sometimes we have to slow down to speed up. We have to stop, take the time to build trust in order to speed up. It's not always easy. It's not always the fun choice. Fun choice is just to move quick, go, boom, done. But that can't always be the way it works. And if you want to increase your level of emotional intelligence, you have to move that level up with yourself as well and understand what is it that the other person needs to persuade or influence them. Now we start going into some of the higher order thought with some of this. And there's a model that we talk about, okay? And you're going to notice there's two axes. Number one is level of cooperation, up and down. High is up and down is vertical high is level of cooperation. Vertical low is low level of cooperation. On the horizontal to the left would be low level of competitiveness, and to the right is high level of competitiveness. And you'll see a few things there. You'll see there is at the low is avoidance. At the low cooperation, high competitive is competition. At the low competitiveness, high cooperation is accommodation. The high is collaboration, and in the middle is compromise. And what we're talking about here really is this idea of how can we communicate through and potentially during, if need be, conflict. Okay? So, a few tips before we go into it deeper. In communication, there are some basics, right? You want to smile. You want to have eye contact. You want to make sure you're clarifying things. We've seen this in a couple of comments already to re-say what they've stated already or restate, right? And that also means you have to listen. Remembering means you have to listen to what they say. Now, from the communication side, it's very tactical, right? Making sure that you are present. I think that is the best term to sum up all of communication there is be present. When there is conflict in the communication, or there's a conflict in the issue, whatever's going on, then we have to look at, are we trying to compete, or are we taking ourselves out of it? Are we open to a compromise? Is that the right thing? Are we trying to avoid the conflict entirely? Are we going to just give in, or are we willing to collaborate? And let's look at what this is, and every situation will dictate a different result. There are times, and it depends on what the situation is, right? If there is an issue, a conflict, where right now, it's not just about the competitiveness and cooperation, but I need this to be a certain way, and I need it to happen fast. Then maybe it needs to be high competition, low cooperation. I don't have time to discuss. This is just how it has to be. This is the, I have to win, right? There are other times where it might be high, meaning, hey guys, this is really important, but we need to solve this together. And that's where collaboration comes in. This matters because the highly intelligent person will understand three primary areas of importance here. Number one, they understand where they emotionally feel on the issue. Number two, they understand where the other person emotionally feels about the issue. And number three, they understand the importance and urgency of the decision to be made. Meaning, if it has to be done now, I might have to say, you know what, in this instance, I just have to make the decision. It's competition. I have to win. Sorry, this is how it is. Now, when you do that, you will lose some level of trust because you are dominating. Okay? If you do this, if you make every decision in this way, then you will lose trust with whoever it is because they will feel neglected, unheard, and not a part of the solution. They will just be a drone, basically. So you have to temper this. There are times then when collaboration is right. Hey, we need to make a decision. It needs to be fast, but I don't need it to be me. It can be us because I may not have the best answer. So let's work together, and let's work together now. Let's collaborate. Another area is kind of this middle ground of compromise. Now, compromise in itself, I feel, has a negative connotation because it can be a we both lose. Right? We're not doing the best thing. We're just doing maybe the easiest thing, the compromise. There are times when the decision is not that important, and maybe it's, hey, we can't have what we both want, so let's go for something that'll at least get us by. And you go for that because maybe you don't have the time to collaborate. The two on the far left, though, are things that we need to be cautious about. And these are things where I would say especially avoidance needs to be talked about heavily. So let's start there. In conflict, avoidance is an option. You can choose to avoid the conflict. Out of these 5 choices, all of them are viable, but when you choose to avoid conflict, please understand it does not go away. It simply hides itself for a short time. When you avoid conflict, it does not go away. This will build. It will come up again. There will be another situation where this will come back to bite you. We find this typically a solution in the not as highly emotionally intelligent individual because this is the hardest, this is the easiest thing to choose with the absolute worst outcomes. Because someone who chooses avoidance is choosing a short-term solution instead of a long-term success. And it might come out of fear. It might come out of concern. It might come out of just a clear, background of a lack of, of conflict or conflict aversion. But we have to be cautious with avoidance. The other choice that we have in communication and conflict, especially from the conflict model, is accommodation. And this can be a struggle. And Maggie, I saw you just said repeat those 3 things. You'd have to tell me what the 3 things were. Can you give me one of them? I can't remember what the 3 things were I might have said. The 3 things. The 3 things that we have to know, I think is what you're going for. So the 3 things we have to know is we have to understand our emotions. We have to understand the other person's emotions. And we have to understand the importance and urgency of the decision to be made or of the conflict at hand. To understand our own emotions, understand the other person's emotions, and the urgency and importance of the conflict at hand. Okay? So with accommodation, what we're saying is that it's giving in. This is where giving in is. It's saying, oh, well, it's just not worth it to fight about it, so I'm just going to give in today. And you know what? Sometimes this is a choice that we make. I get it. I do. I've been there. Anyone who's ever been married, I think, has probably had this where it's like, it's not worth the fight today. Give it in. Give in. It's okay. The problem is, this can create a standard that is unmanageable long-term. Because as you give in, you build something else. You give in today and you build resentment. Because then you could start to continuously give in. And if you give in over the long haul, over time, you will build resentment and it will blow up. And so when conflict arises, you need to stop and think, first of all, are my emotions high? Are the other person's emotions high? Is this something we need to wait to discuss? because maybe we need to wait till we're cooler heads. What is the importance and urgency of discussing this conflict or the decision to be made? And then decide, are you going to avoid it entirely? Are you going to just give in so you don't have to deal with it? Are you going to compromise where you both kind of feel like that you've lost a bit? Are you going to compete and just, I'm going to win? Or are you going to collaborate and say, look, let's both come together on this thing and let's figure out the best answer. And let's figure out how to make it better and build the relationship instead of break it. All 5 can be used, but I think that there is at least one that has more positive than negative whenever you use it. And so be thoughtful about conflict and how can you come to a collaboration point instead of something that's going to cost you more than the initial conflict itself. I'm going to ask a question into the chat here, and I'd love to see your answer. But which one of these have you seen used in a positive way? What have you seen when it comes to communication and conflict that has been used positively? Like, you know what, someone was really good at collaboration, or maybe, hey, this competition was the right choice, or maybe compromise or accommodation or avoidance. What was something that you saw that was used? And how was it used? Just describe briefly the situation or the way that it was done, where an effective end result came out of it. I'll give about 2 minutes. And I even added to it there. That's a good one, Diane. Building new work tools. Yep, absolutely. Instead of causing a conflict about we don't have the tools we need, it's saying, okay, well, let's work together and let's build the tools that need to be built in order to make it work. That's a much better way than saying, no, this is just what we do. Boom. Much better. Agreed. Like that. You know, many times I will compare the conflict list here with the win-win list. And everybody hears win-win, right? Well, there's more than just win-win. There's win-win, which is, hey, I would say that's collaboration, right? I get what I need, you get what you need, and we move forward. Then there is lose-lose, which is avoidance, the opposite, the polar opposite of that, which is I don't get what I need, you don't get what you need, and we both just kind of, we go down with the ship at this point, basically, right? Then there's the lose-win, which is where I lose and you win. This would be accommodation. Accommodation is, in this sense, is I'm just going to give in, you can win, I'll lose. And this is why we build up over time resentment, because we feel like we lose so much that eventually we wake up 10, 20 years later and say, oh my gosh, I've given myself away and I don't know who I am anymore, because you become an accommodator instead of a resolver. The highly intelligent person, or highly emotionally intelligent person, aims for resolution, not for just having it brushed under the rug. And then there's also the win-lose. Win-lose is where I win, you lose. And that is high competition, the competition piece there, where that doesn't matter what you want, I win, I'm the boss, boom, it's done, it's over. what that causes is the other person to build up resentment. It's the polar opposite of accommodation. So I feel like I'm getting what I need, but the other person is not. And then compromise is this kind of weird in-between area where we have to be cautious, because if done incorrectly, everybody feels, again, like they lose. Yeah, I got a little win, but not really what I needed. And so it almost delays the avoidance or the lose-lose. A compromise is a short-term lose-lose. And so we have to be cautious in utilizing these. Next, a key level that we need to focus on for building our emotional intelligence, and this is one of my favorites. I think I say that a lot, but I love so much about this, it's hard not to, and that's building rapport. How do you build rapport? How do you build trust? Well, number one, right out of the gate, be genuine. It seems so obvious, but I have to ask this in the chat, and please stop for a minute, think about this. I want some answers, because this is important. This is a great social study for us all to see right now. Do you feel that most people show their authentic, genuine self to others? Yes or no? All I got to do is type yes or no. Do you feel that most people show their genuine, authentic self to others? Oh my goodness. Well, they are pouring in fast. Some in all caps. Guys, I want you to look at the chat. Scroll through this. Look. This is why we bring this up. Most people feel that others are not their authentic, genuine selves. The highly emotionally intelligent person is going to stop right now. They're going to look at this. And they have to assess, are they, and I'll be more pointed, are you showcasing your genuine, authentic self regularly? Or are you operating with a mask? You know, I think back to the old Jim Carrey movie, The Mask, and there's a line in it. How I remember this, I do not know. I haven't seen it in over a decade. But there's a line in there somewhere where it says that everyone wears masks. And I think that's an interesting concept, because I feel that it's true. Almost everyone wears a mask, it feels like. They take the time to cover, to a certain degree, who they really are, because they are afraid of what others might say, think, etc. To build rapport, build trust, increase your EQ, you need to be genuine, your authentic self. And Sheila, you said a great point there, and I have to address that. Give me just one moment. Let me read the one above it. Oh, that was something else. We all put our best foot forward, especially when making a first impression. Yes. And that can be an extreme detriment to our lives. And most people wouldn't say that. So I'm going out on a limb here. I'll give an example. And it's a personal example, not of necessarily my life, but I think many people's lives. If two people begin dating, and they both put their best foot forward, so to say, and they try to be the best version of themselves, and they maintain that for a long time, the other person falls in love with that person. They fall in love with the unsustainable, always happy, perfect, great, life is good, smiles and sunshine other person. And after a year, 2 years, 3 years, who knows what it might be, real life sets in. The relationship moves forward. There's progression. There's engagement, marriage, etc. Kids, who knows what, right? And eventually the real person comes out. And at that point, then there's a conflict. Because, well, you're not the same as who you were when we were dating. And it's because you didn't allow yourself to show your authentic, genuine self and find someone that truly loved you for who you were. They fell in love with the best version of yourself on the daily basis. Now, I understand I might be saying something that sounds crazy in that. Why wouldn't you want to show your best self? Of course you would, because you want people to like you. But what's more important than people liking you is people liking who you really are. The people who I've seen who are most successful in their role are people who are their authentic, genuine selves. Trying to pretend to be someone you're not is unsustainable. The highly emotionally intelligent person says, I will do, like that phrase, you do you. You be yourself, and then you guide yourself into the situations that are best for you, not for who you are on your best day, because you cannot be on your best day every day. It doesn't work that way. And when I was raised as a Southern woman, when people ask how you are, they don't really want to know. The answer is, I'm good, thanks. I feel like I was taught early is to show face. Yes, we are taught that. And by the way, I think as many humans, many people are given that. They're taught that. They are raised to nothing's ever wrong, always be nice, everything's okay. But unfortunately, what that does is that creates an environment of avoidance that we talked about earlier, right? Where that we don't, or maybe accommodation, where it's a lose-win. I'm willing to lose. I'm willing to not be who I really am in order to pacify something else. And then we feel that we've lost ourselves. This is where all of these things come together in order to improve our social skills. Because this is really a social skill area, right? Trust, building rapport. We must also be self-aware enough to know ourselves. We must also do self-management enough to make ourselves be authentic and genuine. It all comes around and comes together in this way. But if you want to build trust, you want to build rapport, you must be genuine. Next, be aware of body language. And this is a two-way street. Know your body language and know their body language. To build rapport, you need to show interest, show respect, be in the moment, be present. We spoke about this earlier as well, but it comes up because it's so important. We must be able to manage our body language, be aware of our body language, understand and be empathetic and see what it does to someone else. In the picture, we have someone one person is really engaged, one person has their computer open, maybe they're engaged, maybe they're not. Every situation is different, but understand your body language. So am I being in the moment to most effectively build rapport? There's a purpose in that. Is the purpose to be there, or is the purpose to build something, to build rapport, to build trust? The next piece that we need to focus on is use the other person's name. This is a basic one. I know it's basic, but I love talking about it because this is a basic skill building piece. Whenever someone hears their name, there's a psychological event that happens, is that it triggers them to look. It even happens in children. I have, as I call it, a litter of babies. I have 3 kids, 4 and under. And so just a lot of babies. So I'm always in the baby stage at some point, it feels like. But right now I have a 1-year-old little boy. And at 1-year-old, whenever you say his name, he will immediately turn around. Even when you say his nickname, which is, of course, the boy. You just say boy, right? Because he's the only boy we have. He will look. He will turn. It gets his attention. Something fires in his little brain that says, I need to be over here. Whenever you are building a rapport with someone and you say their name, in this case, I would say, Bailey, that's a really great point. And that's why you see me use names in here. Whenever I say your name, you perk up. This is something you can use from an EQ perspective on virtual meetings. You're trying to engage with someone, so you pull them up. Sheila, that's an excellent point that you made. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? I'm not saying you need to. I was just pulling it up. Or, hey, Ricky, you know what? Collaboration, that's excellent. Ricky, whenever I was doing blah, 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 every time I say a name, it triggers. It does something. And it shows them that I know who they are, that I care in some way, shape, or form enough to know their name. There's a psychological event that happens that we need to be aware of, and we want to effectively build rapport with the person that we're talking to. And so, by using a few simple concepts here, being genuine, being aware of the body language, and using the other person's name, we can start to make a change in the direction of the rapport building. Is it building or breaking? Is it going up or going down? We want to consistently build trust, build rapport, build culture. And by focusing on the things it takes to do so, the highly emotionally intelligent individual can build on a consistent basis. And as we do this, it increases then, and think about this, it all builds. As we build rapport and trust, we build our ability to persuade and influence. We build our ability to bridge the gaps of communication. We build our ability to effectively navigate conflict. We build our ability to effectively handle tough situations. And we build our ability to put ourselves in other people's shoes and empathize effectively to get to an effective resolution. So while, yes, there are 5 pillars of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, motivation, empathy, and social skills. The goal is to build them not independently, but interdependently with each other. That is where you really find the gold in building your inward and outward emotional intelligence. Another key that you can utilize is to find common ground. Now, how do you find common ground? And actually, I would like to ask this one in the chat. Chat, everyone, I would like you to take just a moment and let me know, what are some ways in which you try to find common ground or are able to find common ground with those around you in your work or personal life? What do you utilize? What do you do? Melissa, that's great. Shared interest. And how do we do shared interest? We have to take the time to communicate, talk, ask questions, and learn. Absolutely. Very good. What else, guys? What else? Oh, here we go. They're rolling in. So shared experiences. Yes. Finding out, talking, communicating, asking questions. Where did you go to school? What? Taking people to lunch. What do you like to eat? Favorite restaurants? Oh, again, Sheila, great. Ask them questions. Oh, Suzetta, this is great. Care about their family. I like how you worded that, Suzetta. It's not just ask about their family. It's care about their family. As we see in a work environment, peer-to-peer, leader to employee, etc., learning and actually caring about them shows a lot, and it builds an amazing rapport. That's excellent. Diane, learn who they are as a person. Absolutely. And Ricky, show interest, show concern. Yes, very wonderful, very good. And I like this, Bailey, right here. Be interested and invested in their personal life, not just what they do at work. Yes, because you know what? When you only care about them at work, they see themselves as a number. They're employee 47324. I showed up on time. I clocked in on time. I did my project on time. But when you invest in them as a person, you see that there is more than just the work. Who they are at work is, in a certain degree, a byproduct of who they are in their life. To build rapport is more than just building at work. It's building and investing with that person, their life. Now, some people don't want to go very deep into their personal life at work. We respect that boundary, but yet we can still show that we care without overstepping the boundary. We can be there and let people know we are there, but that we don't have to invade their privacy, right? That's excellent. Good job, guys. Good job. And then I tie it in here again with the beginning, be open and honest. So this obviously ties in with being genuine and authentic, but it also means being able to be honest when it comes to things like performance management. To effectively manage performance or to help someone improve, to effectively coach, to mentor, we must be open and honest to help them to be more effective. We use another parallel strategy, another matrix, if you will, of being respectful and being honest. You can tell someone the honest truth and be disrespectful. You can be very respectful to someone and not tell them the truth. That's when you dance around a topic, right? A key to building rapport is balancing respectfulness and honesty. You can tell someone how they can improve and not be rude about it. And we do that typically, and what we've talked about in previous sessions, if you've heard, is we focus on I statements instead of you statements. We don't put them down. We say, I see one way that we might be able to improve upon something here is that, one thing I see is that, this interaction happened in this way. We can guide them through and say, hey, how could you improve on that situation? How could you do it better if you had it to do over again? We balance respectfulness with our honesty. There are some people who are just brutally honest, and they say that, but what they really mean is, I just say the truth and I am not emotionally intelligent enough to balance respectfulness in with it. The highly emotionally intelligent person understands that not everyone responds to that, and that open, exciting, amazing communication is not just telling the truth. It's telling someone what they need to hear in the way they need to hear it. Not every employee that you manage is going to respond to, you need to do this better now. Some will. Some will absolutely respond best to that. Don't give me any fluff, just tell me what I need to do and I'll go do it. Others need something different. The highly effective and highly emotionally intelligent person will understand that it is not just what needs to be said, it's also how it needs to be said. And I'm not saying to change yourself. I'm saying still be authentic, still be genuine, but balance the honesty with respectfulness. Let me actually go back to this. I want one more question out of the chat here, guys. So with this, let me ask a question. What is something that you do or that you could do to balance honesty and respectfulness? Do you have something that you do? Do you stop? Do you think? Do you learn about the person? How can you effectively balance with each individual respectfulness and honesty? I'll give just a moment to get some thoughts, and then I'll weigh in as well. Oh, Diane, I like that. Or pardon me, Caleb. Tact trumps truth. And it can be hard because it's much faster, and this is a key. It is faster to just say the blunt truth, dump it on someone and be done with it. It is faster. It's not always as effective. Diane, stop and think of the person you're speaking with. Yes, that's where this is going to go. This is going to be the big EQ growth piece of this. Evaluate each person. Utilize empathy and social skills and motivation, all three, to balance, to understand what they need, not just how you like to communicate. Think about how you're wording things. Yes, it could be clear and concise, but sometimes too blunt can come off as rude. That's right. Understand the person. Meet them where they are. Richard, I like that. Meet them where they are. That's a term that Kent and I and David use very regularly, whether it be with clients, because we do some things that are more cutting edge, right? With gamification, micro-learning. Meet the client where they are because they may not really understand it yet. The same thing goes in with relationships, personal and otherwise. Meet them where they are and understand that our preferred communication style will not always be effective. So we have to understand the others, empathize, put ourselves in their shoes to understand what will most effectively get our point across. And Elizabeth, treat them the way you'd like to be treated. That's right. It's golden rule stuff, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And speak them in the tone you would like. I think that there's a level of truth to that, but there's also the level of understand what they need. And then Sheila, tactfulness. Yes, some people are more sensitive, but you can't necessarily walk on eggshells either. And that's where that balance comes in. We must balance honesty and respectfulness. We cannot walk on eggshells and not tell the truth and not be honest, not be open. We must tell the truth, but in such a way that resonates with the person to get the desired result. We go on motivation on this one, right? Understand what they need to be motivated. Not everyone needs to be yelled at to be motivated. It works for some people. If you yell at me, it will probably motivate me because that shakes me up. I'm like, oh, somebody's serious. I got to move quick, right? But I know some people, if you yell at them, they will break down in tears and you will not effectively achieve what you need to do. And that is not a badge of honor in the workplace or at home, by the way, to make someone cry to get your point across. That is not going to build rapport. That is going to break it. Rarely have I seen someone in a situation like that come out with more respect from the person that was crying. It's a much harder place. And see, Sheila, there you go. Yelling doesn't motivate you. I think that's an important thing. Every person is different. And in order for us to be more highly effective in this and improve our EQ, we must understand where the other person is coming from. That's how we move to improve our emotional intelligence. And with that, guys, we're going to do questions here in just a moment. But again, if you have any, outside of this, if you have questions for me, you can always contact me at brian.cox@bps3keys.com. Feel free to, I love talking about this stuff. I think you guys can probably hear my emotion, my passion for this. I love it because this is, I believe, if we look at the 80s and 90s, it was very leadership focused, right? Tactical leadership focused. I feel like that now we are at a place in the world where that tactical leadership has a place, but this strategic leadership, strategic emotional guidance of people is what it will take to be highly effective as a leader in the coming years. And so I feel like that this is a great place to spend our time, our thoughts, our energy in becoming better as people, as peers, as employees, as leaders, as friends, as partners. This is where it's at. And so I would like to ask now, what questions do you have for me? Feel free to type them in the chat, or feel free as well to come off of mute and say it if you like. But I would love to take a few moments now for questions. What would you like to know? I'm not seeing any come through yet, but I'm still here. I will wait here, you guys. It's your time. And so let's do this. If you have no questions and you need to go, feel free to go. Otherwise, I'm going to stay here on the line and watching the chat. I would like to thank you guys so much for taking the time over the past several weeks to spend with us here. And thanks to TBI for having us to discuss and to help give you guys tools to improve your EQ. Again, I feel like that this is such a valuable skill. But I will close with one additional concept, and that is time. And I do this at the end of a lot of sessions, and this is probably the last session that I will facilitate for a little while. And so, you know, when it comes to training, learning, development, new content, things like this, hearing the content is great. Being present here is great. And thank you guys for being so present. And thank you for being involved and engaged. The gold in this content comes not from hearing me speak. If hearing me speak could change behaviors, they would pay me so much more money, right? The gold in this comes from you taking it and applying it. In your next interaction you have with someone, are you going to focus on building rapport, building trust? In the next conflict you have, are you going to focus on, am I accommodating? Am I collaborating, right? Am I giving in, or am I trying to, you know, force myself and compete, right? Am I compromising? It comes in your application after the fact. And so take the time to focus on applying these for growth. Hearing it is great. We'll call it a bronze or silver medal. The gold medal is taking it and utilizing it, because that's where you will see the positive effects come from this that can positively impact and change your work, your life, and yourself. And so again, if you have any questions, feel free, let me know here, or you can email me again at that. But it has been my honor and a pleasure to be with you guys. Thank you so much for being engaged, for being a wonderful audience. And we are absolutely honored to be here. Kent, do you have anything that you'd like to say before we close out here today?
The other thing that comes to my mind, Brian, is that give yourself permission to fail at this, right? You know, trying is hard, but at least you're trying. And I say, you commend everyone for being here, for participating. For those who will watch the video afterwards, great that you're listening, participating, and you're trying. And you know, falling down isn't the problem. Making a mistake isn't the problem. It's stopping, right? Not continuing to try to apply to get better at these 5 pillars. So just say, you know, give yourself permission to fail and say, I'm going to keep working and get better and better. Nothing we've ever done with excellence in our life happened the first time. So I commend to you this material and just continue to keep trying to apply it.
You know, I was reading a great book by a gentleman that lives in Nashville, actually. He lives near me in Franklin area. His name is John Acuff, and the book is called Do-Over. And there's a quote in that book I think is so relevant. And it's this, is that procrastination is the cousin of perfectionism. And what he really means by that is that so many times we procrastinate. We don't apply because we're afraid we won't be perfect. Kent, you were spot on. This is not about being perfect. This is about growth, consistent, ongoing growth. You will not be perfect, but if you start applying, you can improve and see growth. That's what we're going for. Don't allow perfectionism to get in the way of action. Thank you everyone for your comments. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Excellent. Thank you so much. Perfect. Wonderful. Hey guys, thank you. Thank you very much. Diane, thank you. Tara, Maggie, Bridget, Deborah, thank you guys so much. Paul, excellent. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, Caleb, that's right. Thanks to the HR group. Thanks so much to Ernie Ricketts. That's great. Yes. Wonderful. And y'all have a great day too. Perfect. Well, with that, guys, I don't see any major questions coming through. So if you need anything, let us know. Outside of that, we hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys in an upcoming session. I think that there's going to be one announced tomorrow. There will be an email coming out about some new content. Kent, would you want to mention what that content is now that the session is over?
Yeah, we're very excited about that next month's programs are going to be about impulse control and really some of that verbal judo we mentioned briefly at the beginning of the class. So very excited about those classes in June, and more will be coming out from Mr. Dr. Ernie Ricketts tomorrow. So have a great day.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you in the next session.